Hey all, it's Geology Joe's here. If you can't tell, I am in my rooftop camper. Right now, I'm in the middle of a 2-week-long trip going from Las Vegas down to the Everglades and up to the Midwest and everywhere in between. Today, I'll be talking about something that I normally don't talk about. Panic disorder. What is it? What's it like living with it? And especially, what is it like traveling with it? That's what we're going to get into today. Why am I making this video? Well, I think a lot of people don't understand anxiety disorders and how difficult it can be living with it. And I also want to make this video for those that struggle with anxiety disorders or panic disorder and potentially inspire those people to live the life that they want to live despite their disorder. Okay, let's get into it. What is panic disorder? Panic disorder is marked by expected and unexpected panic attacks. Expected means you have a trigger that is setting off a panic attack. Unexpected means that it is random. It just comes on out of absolutely nowhere. You could just be driving or chilling in bed. You get hit with all of these symptoms. Panic attacks are different from anxiety attacks. With panic attacks, the symptoms mimic cardiac arrest. You could have a pounding heart, palpitations, tachycardia, stomach issues where you feel like you need to relieve yourself. It could be dizziness, nausea. You could feel like you're going to pass out, tingling in your fingers, in your head, and just feeling a deep sense of dread. You just don't feel right in your body. And it's absolutely terrifying. You quite literally feel like you're dying. I developed panic disorder about 2 years ago. It was a slow progression. It started with random physical symptoms that I could not explain. And then those symptoms got more severe and more frequent to the point where I was experiencing it every single day, and it quite literally felt like I was dying. It felt like something was severely, severely wrong with me, and I was so hopeless and frustrated, and I was having mental breakdowns every single day because I did not understand what was happening to me. I got all of these different tests done. I was driving myself to the ER like every other day because I seriously had no idea what was wrong with me. And then I got it in my head that, oh, maybe I'm having an allergic reaction to food. And that became me being afraid to eat. So every time I ate something, I started having like physical sensations, and I thought I was going into anaphylaxis. So I would drive myself to the ER, and I was at the ER almost every single day. And at this time, I didn't know what I was allergic to. I was waiting for that appointment, and until I got that appointment, I became super restrictive with what I was eating. I was only eating foods that I deemed safe, where I wasn't having these physical sensations, even though it was completely all in my head. And there became a time that I was like barely eating anything, and I was so incredibly hungry and so frustrated and just absolutely miserable. Imagine being afraid to eat. Yeah, not fun. Since I got my allergy test done, it has gotten a lot better. But I was still having those physical reactions every single time I ate, but they weren't foods that I was allergic to. So I was like, what is going on here? And that's when I started connecting my sensations to panic attacks. He just made a really weird sound. And when I realized what I was experiencing was panic attacks, that's when I got my power back. That's when I realized, oh, it's in my head. It didn't make the panic attacks any less terrifying, but I actually had a name to what I was experiencing. And after I figured out what it was, the frequency of my panic attacks became less and less and less, because every time they happened, I was like, this isn't real, it's fine, it'll pass. I went from going to the ER every other day to maybe once a week, and then once a month. Okay, so now you kind of have an idea of what panic disorder is and what it's like living with it. So how does panic disorder develop? Well, you could be genetically predisposed like I am. It could be caused by chemical imbalances in the brain, certain medications, or through a traumatic life event. I recently discovered that panic disorder can actually progress into agoraphobia if left untreated, and I am not down for that at all. The past few years since I developed panic disorder, doing basic daily tasks have been so difficult, like eating. Things that people can do without thinking of, I have to put so much thought into it to convince myself to do it, that it will be okay. And I'm sick of it. The more walls that I build up around myself, the harder it will be to knock them down. So that's why I'm on this trip, actually. I'm equal parts excited to travel across the country and terrified. Traveling solo cross country would probably give anyone a little bit of anxiety, but for someone with panic disorder, multiply that by 10. The first few days of the trip, my brain was a lot like this.
What if I break down in the middle of the desert? And what if I don't have service to call anyone?
I hope I don't see a rattlesnake.
I did just change my hood, okay?
And I hope I don't. I hope
break my leg.
I always roll my sound. I really do try my best to break in. What if I get stuck out there? Like a mile.
At least the first 3 days was like that. Traveling with panic disorder is making excuses for why you can't do certain things and go certain places. As I've been traveling, I feel more inclined to stay in cities where there are facilities like hospitals, just in case I have a panic attack. It's been really difficult for me to want to go to remote places. I really wanted to go to Big Bend, but I was terrified of being in that remote setting and not being able to access emergency services if I needed to. And I was almost not going to go, but then I was like, you have to go. And I went. Did I have a panic attack? Yes. I was hiking up a mountain. I was 2 miles up the mountain and panic attack out of nowhere. Annoying. But you know what? I was fine. Did I think I was dying in the moment? 100% totally. But you know what I did? I sat down on a rock and I just waited for it to pass. And I told myself, you're going to be okay. This is fine. It's going to pass. And after about 10 minutes or so, it passed. And I finished the hike just fine. And I had a big juicy burger afterwards. Traveling with panic disorder is also anticipating the next one. It's being constantly afraid that it's going to happen in a very uncomfortable place, like on top of a mountain. I would say there's actually an upside to traveling with this disorder, and that's the National Park Access Pass. It's a free lifetime pass that gets you into all the national parks if you have an ADA recognized disability. And panic disorder is recognized as an ADA disability. It felt a little weird for me to get the pass because I don't consider myself as having a disability. I don't feel like I am disabled. But I also have to remember that I drive myself to the ER frequently because I think that I'm dying. I restrict my eating because I think it's dangerous. Disabilities come in many different forms. It's not all about what you see. A lot of it can be up here or inside here. And that was really hard for me to accept. I don't think I wanted to accept it. I still feel very weird about it. A lot of people with panic disorder also have digestive problems. When I started this trip, my symptoms got so much worse, probably because my anxiety is so much higher. I feel like I'm constantly on edge. I'm more on edge than I am in peace on the road. But I am doing a lot better than I expected. Traveling with this thing has made it a lot easier. I think if I didn't have him, I would be way more anxious and things would be a lot more difficult. But having him with me gives me a lot of comfort. Highly, highly recommend traveling with your pet if you have an anxiety disorder. He wants to leave my arms because he was sleeping and I was very rude and woke him up. He's like, please, please don't. But overall, even though I have been experiencing a lot of anxiety, worse GI symptoms, and more frequent panic attacks, I do not regret going on this trip. I feel really proud of myself that I am pushing myself to do these things that are honestly terrifying for me. I feel like I am making progress. It's really scary right now, but it's going to be easier. I'm breaking down the walls that I've put up, so it can only get better. Unfortunately, from what I've learned, panic disorder is kind of a permanent condition. It can go into remission where you don't have it for many years and then maybe you'll get another one out of the blue. But I will pretty much have this disorder for all of my life, but I can manage the symptoms better and hopefully train my body to accept anxiety and to possibly lower it. That's the goal anyway. The goal is to reduce the number of panic attacks I have and try to live as normal of a life as I possibly can and to enjoy the things that I love, like traveling and hiking and geology. And I'm really hoping that if you have this disorder or one like it, that what I'm doing right now inspires you to get out of your comfort zone and live the life that you want to despite your disorder and kick its butt. Because if I can do it, you can do it. I think that's all that I'm going to include in this video. I am making a compilation of all of my days on the trip, and I will eventually post that for a more in-depth vlog-like video of my trip. I'll also be posting regular geology content as well, going into all of the geology of all the different places that I went on my trip. So stay tuned for that. See you next time.